Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Good evening and welcome to the Bellows Falls Village Trustee regular meeting. It's Tuesday, April 17th, 2022, and 6 o'clock, and we're down here in the lower theater. Thank you for joining us by Zoom. And I'd like to call the meeting to order. We need to approve the minutes of Tuesday, March 22, 2022. And we have them in our packet.
Motion to approve the minutes of March 22nd, 2022.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
All right, any conversation about the minutes? Everybody good? All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, we're good on that. Any additions to the agenda for routine administrative matters and or pressing matters that will require ratification of the future meeting?
No, the only thing is I just handed out copies of that local hazard mitigation plan for the board members, and it'll come back on an agenda for adoption. It's a fairly long document, so I figured we'd have some time to have everybody take a look at it, review it, and then we'll go through the future agenda. We'll have it on for adoption.
Okay. That's it?
That was it.
Public comment. Is there any public comments? No? And I see no one on Zoom. All right, moving on to the manager's report then.
So we have started transitioning. I think at this point, we're fairly safe to say that we're done plowing. So we've had guys working over at the public safety building. If you noticed, they're starting the parking lot project we talked about last year. And so we're hoping to have that pretty much ready for the Springfield paving people to come. Hopefully, I think it's early next week. I think it was the last time I talked to Andy. So they'll be coming to do the base and then come back and do the final top coat on after the base has settled. We're also going to be doing some work. I know if you notice out front where that catch basin is, there's a dip in the road there and an area that needs repair. So we've marked that off. We'll dig that out, have that set up as well, so that when they come to do the asphalt for the parking lot, they can hopefully fix that as well. So that project's well underway. The next street sweeping, trying to get through as much of the just spring cleanup as possible. And there's already a couple items on this agenda for people that want to start to use parking spaces and other things that we'll talk about. So we're well into the spring and then summer activities. As far as we know, all of our normal big public events are still on schedule. So we're still planning on an alumni weekend in June. We still have all the summer activities planned. So fingers crossed that Old Home Days and all of our other activities will go off this summer and we'll have a back to pre-pandemic sort of activities. So far so good.
That's it.
That's what it.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to the agenda, number 1 is the application by PK's Irish Pub to operate on public property.
So I just wanted to bring this to the board's attention and wanted to follow up to see if there had been any concerns, questions. Obviously, we allowed some of our downtown restaurants and other downtown businesses to try to increase some of their usable space by using some of the outdoor space. That seems to have worked fairly well at PK, so he's asked if he could continue doing that through the warm weather months, through the summer and into the fall. So really that's the basis of this application. The sidewalk there is really, at this point, the closure because of all the construction and other activity there. It's not as disruptive as it would be in a normal circumstance where you'd have the regular connections on that side of the street. It's basically blocked off from the top of the road. So at this point, it doesn't really necessarily impact a lot of pedestrian travel and other types of activities. So if there's really no questions or concerns from the board, I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention and just see if there had been any feedback.
My only thinking was, as long as construction has halted by the end of the day, we actually have people out there just so, there won't be dust and fumes and other things of concern.
No.
which is most likely gonna be the case anyway.
There's gonna be disruption, because, right, they're 5 inches from the
I know.
edge of that building to the foundation of
Yeah.
that building, so. It'll be, they'll have to work together, but the contractor out there so far has been very responsive, so
And that's important, yeah.
I think it'll work out.
Using the same fencing and that's what I think they had set up previously. So they've already gotten their approval from the ZA and all that. Anyone have any other questions for?
I had one
Oh,
question,
go ahead.
plus. There you go. So, my only question was, and I don't even know, but where it says dates of operation, April 1st to snowfall,
Right.
should we have like a date at the end?
Probably not a bad idea.
Like,
Well, I mean,
Like if
Like
December-
November 1 or something
or
like
December
that?
15th or
Whatever.
whatever
well, the
comes
honest
first?
answer is, once we go to winter parking ban,
Right.
that goes away. So
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
really the true end of it.
And that's November 1.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've always considered that, because by then we've pulled all the stuff to get out of the bollards and all the stuff that could get in the way of plowing snow.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's pretty much broken down by then anyway. You have to do it.
I didn't know if we,
So if you want to just make that November 1st, just to feel more comfortable, so there's a date.
Yes, there's somebody in the waiting room, I guess.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yes.
Susan.
Steph just noticed them.
So we could certainly just add that, just so it's clear.
Oh, it's just her.
but November 1st might be early,
Right,
depending on the weather.
right, yeah.
I know, but you can't, that's the problem, right? I
Yeah.
mean, we have the ordinance, parking ordinance, because
right.
Well,
it's not unusual to get October storms.
Yeah, we've had snow for Halloween. Shoot, the
Yeah.
last few years.
Yeah. So I think it's probably fairly reasonable to just say November.
November 1 makes sense to me.
Okay,
Okay with you guys?
Sure.
That makes sense?
Yeah, it's fine.
You might want to change the form so you're not signing in the village manager line, just change it to municipal manage.
yeah. I know.
Form, oh, the forms. So we don't have to vote on this, we're just,
No.
we're good,
well, good to-
except for changing it to as amended.
Correct.
yeah, but it's good that we see it.
Yes, of course, no, of course it is. Number 2, consideration of use of public parking for Richards Group, 531 to 61, I gather they're moving.
They are. And, again, it's a short-term deal where they'll be taking up some parking in the downtown, and we'll certainly, as part of the permit, we'll certainly make sure we recover whatever that might be worth to the village, but I just wanted to bring that again to people's attention, because it's gonna be somewhat disruptive. Usually that early in the season, it's not as bad in terms of just the impact on downtown, but just for the board's awareness, 31st is actually the day after Memorial Day, so it's that Tuesday and Wednesday.
Moving out of the village tire.
I wasn't clear on that.
Where they're actually going.
Yeah,
Sorry to see them leave. That's storefront, so they've been there for a long time. All right, next item on the agenda is the approval for contract with Wyndham County Sheriff for public safety dispatcher.
so Deb had a couple of just quick questions that we were gonna answer. They basically do the 4 10-hour days. So that's their normal work week. We don't normally have we don't normally have our dispatcher there on a Friday. So they pick up that extra time. And so when you look at that, that's what basically their normal week would be. Picking up those extra hours plus obviously the Fridays, the Saturdays, Sundays. And then they do try to consider, the additional coverages, because there is vacation as well as, sick time for our dispatcher. So that's what they build into the contract.
Don't you think Friday should be in the contract? I should say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And just because it looks like they're,
I mean, we can certainly add it just so that everybody understands it's more clear. It's not a problem. I mean, they're doing it now, so it's not a change, just.
So even though it's not in here, the Friday is included in. the
Friday's a
con-
full day for them, like
Right.
Saturday and Sunday.
Right.
Yeah.
Once our dispatcher leaves, they know that they're gonna have that coverage.
They didn't realize she wasn't there on Fridays. So you said she's doing 4 10s.
Right,
But the costs include that.
Include that day already.
Yes, it's in that current, that current allocation.
Why does the contract say 2021?
Because he just took the old contract and didn't update it.
Didn't update it. Well, except he did update some parts.
He did. I give him credit. He got most of it done. But yeah, it's actually, for the dates, it's from 23 to 25, so
Yeah.
maybe we should change that to 22.
So is this a one-year contract?
2, I think.
It was 23, okay, 23, 25.
Right.
Right.
So it begins July of 22.
Yeah.
Ends June 30, 20. It should be,
3, yeah.
well, then it has, right?
That's what it says.
But with renewals. So you have annual renewals. So the term, it's a one-year term with the 2 renewals.
Right.
And
And
each
then-
renewal has a potential for a CPI increase.
I don't understand page 2, number
Okay.
5, where the maximum rate shall not exceed 4%, when it used to be an annual 3%, but B, the minimum rate shall be at least 1%.
Right. So I think what they've done is they've cut the upside risk, which is kind of surprising considering the inflation numbers came in today at 8.5%. So I think I would sign this, not send it back. You might end up with that number going up, not down. So,
Any other questions?
I just had a clarification on the very first page under C.
okay,
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, but it says second sentence, the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office will not monitor the Bellows Falls fire alarm system.
Mhm.
Okay, I get that. The next one, any emergency or non-emergency calls received by the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office, by the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office will require. I don't get that sentence. Am I missing something
Transfer to
there?
the agency
Well, it
identified.
looks like they transferred to mutual aid, is the way I
I'm assuming
understand it.
that's the
Correct.
case.
Fire
Yeah.
mutual aid.
because then they'll have to tone depending upon what it is.
Right, but it says
Right.
any emergency or non-emergency calls received by the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office.
I think they duplicated the by the.
By the Wyndham
UCSO.
County Sheriff's Office.
It's a duplicate in the sentence. It's redundant.
Well, I think what it really is supposed to mean is that if their guys are calling it in through their coverage of dispatch, it still
Yeah.
gets transferred to the third party agency to do the dispatch. Right, they're not gonna do the direct dispatch if they get called by the sheriff's folks.
Yeah.
To say we need ambulance or fire or other,
Right, but I believe,
Right.
I
It's a-
get
it's
what
a
Wade's trying to
bulky
say,
sentence.
the sentence is wrong.
it's a little bulky, the sentence, right?
Yeah,
It could have been clearer.
I mean, it still means the same thing, but it's.
Right, they're just gonna transfer all of those calls right to the, at this point, it's Keene. And then
Mhm.
if there's a regional dispatch, Deb had asked that
That's my other
question.
question.
At that point, part of that regional dispatching legislation will have to include what does it mean for each of these individual agreements plus communities. So they'll address that if we go to a regional based dispatch. And it'd be in the legislation, the enabling legislation.
Mhm.
I think we're in the conversation stage about that. I don't know how close we are to the reality stage of that, at least at this point.
Right, I'm only bringing it up because the term of the agreement is July 1,
Right.
2022 to June 30th, 2025. And and there's no out plan here, if we chose to get out and we chose to become part of the regional program, we can't get out of this according to this until.
Well, number 21 says you can.
Well, you'd have your annuals, right? So if you decided not to do any of your annual
Ah.
renewals, you'd have those. as
30-day
sort of
notice.
Natural breaks, right? Now, again, it's anybody's guess. Is the state going to mandate regional dispatching and then provide some sort of framework for that in the next 3 years? I don't know. I'm not so sure I'm thinking that's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I know it'll get talked about quite a bit, and they might float out some proposals, but I don't know if they'll actually implement it. So,
My only other thought was, have you heard, any, not that we have a lot of choice, but like feedback from the chief? Is he still okay with their services?
yeah,
I mean, he's not complaining every day about,
no, when we do the transition or the changeover, it's pretty seamless. They do a decent job and, you know, looking at it realistically, if we try to go to, you know, higher levels of coverage, start bringing in part-timers or other things, I think it becomes more of a management headache than it would be any kind of real benefit to us. So to really do that, we'd have to probably bring in at least 2 more part-timers, and probably
Right.
3 when you start thinking about vacancies and scheduling and all the things that take place. So,
And it was what, less than 10 years ago that we dropped the full-time dispatch
Yeah.
from our service.
you know, I look in the papers and every week I see somebody, I think dispatch is looking, Springfield's looking for one now. I've seen them
Yeah.
for New Hampshire. I've seen them, you know, everybody's out there beating the bushes. So I think at this point, it'd be better to have the service in place than to try to go out, I think, and try to
Mhm.
replace it on our own. I'm not so sure we could get that done right now.
And I think initially our costs would be greater.
Oh, I know.
Oh, yeah. Shoot.
I would, yeah, by the time you probably put it all together, I'm guessing Stephanie.
Yeah.
I think we probably spend more money.
So I do believe in this case, we do need a motion to accept this and to have Chief Bemis sign the contract.
Chief Amos is supposed.
Yeah, he's on the back.
If we're comfortable, I'll make the motion.
Go ahead.
I'll make the motion that the Bellows Board of Trustees approve the agreement for dispatch services with the Wyndham County Sheriff's Office and authorize Chief David Bemis to sign the agreement.
Need a second?
I'll second that.
Is there any further discussion on the agreement? Hearing none then, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Item 4, discussion of rates for external details and support to WNESU for services.
Well, these 2 things sort of fit together because in the past, I guess we'll start with WNESU, because they had been using what was used to call a truancy officer, now I think they call them a community
Resource
officer, CRO. And they will periodically ask for support with issues relating to, you know, kids in the school. But we've never really had anything formal for the school, nothing in writing, nobody could put their hands on anything. So I just wanted to make sure that I was gonna talk to the superintendent and say, it's probably about time to put something together in a more formal arrangement here, so that we all know what we're doing. If there's a minimum amount of contracting or how much services we can actually support them. They've been able to work it out for the most part, but I think it's probably time now to do that in a little bit more of a detailed fashion. And also maybe add a little more detail, what kinds of services do we really want to support? So that was one thing I think we'll put the district on. If there's any other things that the board has questions or concerns about, I think it's now the time to get started with that. And then when other details are requested for support for activities, we really don't have a standard sort of rate sheet. So what this really would do, this additional external detail rate sheet would just set those sort of parameters. So people would understand if they wanted to try to engage us for support outside of the traditional things that we normally support, like our events and things that we talked about earlier. And this would be the document. You know, this would at least start that conversation so they would understand what they were potentially going to be paying for.
Let me ask if I may, we talked about external details. What about internal details within our boundaries?
Or what kinds, I mean, if we're doing things like,
Whether it be a concert at the Waypoint, whether it be a dance at some club, some other event.
if it's a private event,
Yeah.
you know, for like a service organization event and one of, you know, and it's large enough to where they're asking for police, we'd probably engage in this. Most of the other events are kind of sponsored through the community, you know, things
Right.
like, you know, Old Home Days
Yeah.
or the parades or the stuff that's being done for alumni weekend. So I think a lot of those
We
things.
charge for the dance, is that correct?
Right,
Yeah.
there's a traditional sort of relationship there. The rest of it is just sort of,
Yeah.
you know, the last time I think that we turned out any kind of great numbers was the park dedication. Just making sure that extra officers on hand to help with traffic control.
Right.
Just making sure that the street was shut down and, those types of things are our own sort of community and,
Yes.
And the kind of the village's participation, in like, say, for instance, Old Home Day, where the town pays for fireworks or participates in the fireworks.
kind of like a public
Except for
event,
we
right?
do that part.
Kind of like our contribution. So.
Yeah.
I mean, if one of the private, like the Elks or Polish American or somebody brought in a big act, so to speak, and
Right.
wanted to do a big concert, well, this would probably be more the kind of, this would be the document, that type of thing. Because at that point, it's really not a village sponsor or a town sponsor, then it's more for the benefit of that group, whatever it might be, so.
So is this the beginning of say, I don't know, some type of contract with the WNESU to provide services when they need them?
What I would prefer to have from them is just a letter of understanding, with just some basic parameters. I don't think we have to do a formal contract, but I think it just helps us both understand what the arrangements are and just how much support we can do, or just sort of give us the ability to say, okay, we can support these things and that's all good, but we can't make this to the point where it's impacting our schedule or other things that we're trying to do as a department, because I think we're still working on our manning and our manpower. And while we're not in a crisis, we're certainly not in a great spot. So I think we want to make sure we protect our current patrol schedules and make sure we can maintain the support that we've had. So that's really, I think, the only intent that I'm looking at for this.
Well, I mean, when you brought this up to me last week, I thought to myself, I don't remember ever seeing, there's no line, I don't think, is there for the income
No,
that they provide, that gets provided by SU, and I don't know how many hours we actually wind up providing for them during the course of the year. It's like a sort of an unwritten agreement that we.
I think we're going to
Doing-
find out that, right, it sort of ebbs and flows.
Right.
And, but I think it's something we should get a little more meat around and have a better understanding of, so the board's more comfortable with
Oh,
it.
yeah,
So,
definitely.
and I think it's a good thing. I don't mean it all to imply that it's a problem or a
Right.
concern. I just think it's something we should make sure we're all,
A little more formal.
Yeah.
a little more.
And there's a level of liability for us as our officers are Bellows Falls and participating in Westminster if something occurs.
Well, the students are drawn from the whole, right, the whole service area,
Right.
so you have to take that into consideration as well.
Anything further? No?
So we'll follow up with that as it gets developed. I just wanted to bring it to the board's attention.
Thank you. Number 5, approval of passive grant for public safety camera system. You have a letter in your packet.
So thank you to Wade for pointing out that, there's some of these opportunities, and so we did go through the grant process and we're successful at getting this first grant. We have another one pending, but that's for a separate facility in the town. But at this point, we want to just go ahead with that and then move ahead with that Axon proposal to update those cameras so they go to that evidence.com system and then up into the cloud, as we talked about, taking pressure off of that server so that if we do have a problem with that old server, we're not going to lose all of that data that we need for cases and things that were required under that records management policy to maintain.
Okay, and this is good for to spend the money within 6 months. Yes.
We'll definitely do that. That's not a problem.
Yeah. I was gonna say, that's more than the amount of the grant, isn't it? This will just be an offset.
Well, we broke up portions of the grant, so we'll buy some of the equipment with this money, and then we'll still have that monthly fee for that, for the
The service.
service and
Yeah.
the storage in the cloud. But it's much, much more cost effective than that, other conversations that we were having about the service.
So thanks, Wade.
Yes, so thank you for that.
Letter of support for phase 2 of the Saxon River Trails Initiative.
So this was brought to my attention by Gary, and it's a little convoluted here. So I did attach a copy of the map, so you can sort of see the area that we're talking about here, this phase 2 area. And really what it is so the Village Falls Village Corporation is, we're the landholder here. So what we have to do before they're allowed to have an easement to do their improvements and upgrade the trail, which everybody thinks is a good idea. We as the property owners just have to have some sort of recognition that they're allowed to basically build this improvement through our property to do that. So at this point, the first thing that we're asking you to do is just to, it's a simple letter. It doesn't really do much except it just gives them the ability then to make those improvements. And we still have all of our ownership rights. It's just they'll be improving within our right of way.
Discussion? Gentlemen? Questions on this?
How does that work once you get down to the McAllister land?
A little more complicated there, which is why we're only doing this 590-foot section now.
Okay.
That's going to require a little bit more work, and not that they're being difficult or it's just private property. It's a little more difficult.
But it's not an investment that we're going to be making and then find ourselves.
I don't think we're going to get stuck there. Maybe Gary can sort of fill you in on where we stand with the rest of it.
Yeah, so the easements exist for the full length of the trail. So the McAllister property granted the Historical Society an easement through his property for the trail. The village granted the Historical Society an easement around the wastewater plant for their trail. But the grant folk, just because there's an easement for the trail there, the grantors want to know that you're aware. I mean, that the easement's been there for a decade. They want to know that you're aware that a trail, there's plans to build a trail there now, even though the easement exists.
Utilize.
So just to kind of like a letter of support and knowledge, and yeah, this is going forward and sort of. And when there's funding to do the next phase through the McAllister property, that will continue there. It's, building it out piece by piece as we're able to.
And that easement goes with any property transfer, et cetera, of McAllister.
Yes,
That will
yeah,
never become
carries
a problem.
through in perpetuity. Yes.
So the 590 feet gets you down to the land, out to the property
It
line.
gets you to the end of the fence around the wastewater treatment plant.
Third of the way.
Need a motion for this? I'm going to have one.
Madam President, I'll make the motion that we authorize Scott Pickup, municipal manager, to execute the Vermont Department of Forest, Parks and Recreation template for the letter of landowner permission.
Need a second?
Second.
Further discussion? Did you have anything else? Wait,
No,
I just, that,
great. Then all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. You're good. You got your letter. Okay.
Thank you.
Next item is the farmer's market, Headed Green for the 2022 season.
So
And I do believe we have a couple people here from the farmer's market as well.
awesome. So we had really hoped to try and work out an arrangement with the hydro to use some of that property and then try to bring people down near the monument area and that grassy area that then goes down towards the canal. And I understand the hydro's position. Quite frankly, they were just at this point, they said until they get relicensed through FERC, they're not going to do anything that could potentially impact that application. So I understand it, it's maybe a little too conservative for my taste, but I understand that. So with that being said, we were looking at other options and we did sort of kick the tires on a few spots and ultimately ended up here at the Headed Green, at least for this season. There was a couple of things that would be very beneficial to the folks that are putting on the market itself that I just wanted to bring to the board's attention that they would like to leave I guess it's just a trailer. I don't know how big it is, but maybe you guys could sort of fill
The
it in.
trailer, I mean, we're thinking of, I have a good condition, but a 2-horse like livestock trailer. It's in good condition, 4 wheels, it can be parked. It's not an eyesore or a rust bucket or anything. But, and it's registered, yes. But as just storage for the basic stuff that we were keeping in either, i.e. the train station or at the Waypoint Center, for the market manager, a few tents, tables, and things like that, just to make it slightly easier for folks rather than lugging stuff or trying to figure out where to keep stuff.
Would it be parked in the parking lot? In that green lot?
That was kind of a thought we discussed. Those back corner spots are pretty rarely used. And if it was granted, just be a very convenient way for us to be able to keep stuff for a farmer's market there.
What do you guys think? I don't really see any problem with it. No one's using
No.
it for staging this year.
We don't sell enough premise to where it's gonna encroach on your sales or anybody's parking there, so quite frankly. it's-
And if there was any need,
Right.
it can go away. You know, it can, hey, we need this parking lot for something, came up middle of summer, no problem, we can move it very easy and bring it back if, you know, that's our issue.
And just the only other item in the memo, just for the board's understanding and the folks from the market would like to just do a fundraiser on May 20th, and I think there was some, it's a early afternoon event, it's over with by 8 o'clock, so it really doesn't affect people into the later evening. And that's a way for them to help support the market and hopefully, you know, kick them off with a little bit of a financial cushion to get a little help. So that was part of this as well.
It would just be in addition to the entertainment of the 3F anyway. Right? It's gonna be happening. I don't see anything
Yeah, it's a
wrong
good
with that.
idea, you know, hopefully gets people to start coming to, you know, to events in the evening. Hopefully we'll start to see people
Right.
more out and about, so.
There was one question, and I know, because it come up a couple of years ago, and it was the use of electricity. Will they be using will you guys be using the electricity for your card machines or any of that stuff this year?
Shouldn't be, ours is all battery, so we charge it before and we use, you know, for cards and stuff, full market. I don't believe,
I don't think
is
we have
there, I don't believe there is power at Hidden Green.
There isn't.
There's not power and it's way too
Oh.
expensive to get it over there. We did research
Okay.
that. Even for a light for the flagpole, it's like $6,000 or $7,000.
Wait, so the flagpole's lit at night, isn't it? It's
That's a
supposed to be.
street light,
Just the street light. Okay.
so there's actually I don't believe any actual
additional
other lighting, right?
Well, I think at the time, if I'm correct, they may have, for lack of a better term, well, somebody at the bank, I think, had some arrangement with the bank at the time, and it was a different institution.
The bank did not allow the market to use electricity because of the security issues with the alarm system. The market goes after the bank closes.
Right.
Right.
And if there's a short, there's some problem with the electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't work for their corporate security.
Right.
And then-
So they always used generators and same thing, there would be quiet propane generators used when electricity is needed here as well.
That's okay.
I had a couple questions, just minor. So the parking, the first request for the parking. Right here. That parking area in the lot.
In the, where, for the trailer?
No, the first one.
No, it's actually, so there's parking parallel to the park.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
those,
up the hill there.
it's those spots there.
Okay.
So traditionally, the farmer's market would block those spots off on a Thursday evening.
Yeah.
So that then on Fridays, everything went much smoother for setup and for customer parking.
So you're already there doing your thing.
Right.
My other question is just out of curiosity. So who is the Greater Falls Farmers Market? I know what a farmer's market is, but
That's us.
It's,
is it a,
it actually this year is transitioning to be a vendor run market.
it's all of
It
us?
operates underneath the umbrella of the Sustainable Valley Group. And in the past, it was always run by a manager under the SVG auspice. And now we're transitioning to be a vendor run market, where there's a group of us working to collaboratively to create a farmer's market for the community.
And you said there's a new director now, and are you the director, or are you the director?
We do have a new market manager.
Okay. Oh,
She just
okay.
began this Sunday. We're very excited. And we invited her to this evening, but she is on a plane to California with her daughter.
Oh, okay.
So she wasn't able to make it.
Who is that?
Her name is Ash Hutton, and she's new to the community. She moved here, was it this winter?
She said, yeah, just this past winter.
Right.
Okay. Great.
Seems really excited about the farmer's market and community engagement.
And she also works for HCRS, so there's a
Ah.
nice connection there.
Has nutrition background, nutrition education.
Put this on hold until she
Yeah, really.
Her words were, I'm really excited to do this, no pay needed. She's really, it seems like a really fantastic person. Pretty excited about it.
Season starts, oh, you're gonna be starting you're gonna do the May 20th date, and then season starts June 17th. Is that
Correct.
Correct.
We're piggybacking on BS3.
All right, is there anything further, gentlemen? No. And I do not believe we need a motion for that, do we? Or do we? Scott?
No, just at this point, I think we just have a memorandum of understanding, so if everybody's good with that, that's all we need to really just go forward with that, so, yeah, we're not gonna execute anything beyond that, huh?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Wow, hard work.
We're very excited for the season.
Yeah, I'm thinking about being a vendor, so I'll have to contact somebody soon, so.
Awesome. The more the merrier.
Greater Falls Farmers Market at gmail.com.
Okay. We all read now. Okay, thank you. All right, next on the agenda is to adopt the 2023 budget and preliminary tax rate.
So I guess we'll start with the tax rate sheet first. So this is based on the last round of conversations that we had, and we went through all of the various operating budgets and then also the wastewater and the water budget. And just looking then at where we would be with the tax rate and the current grand list, you can see that the amount that we're currently asking to raise by taxes is actually a slight decrease year to year, which is at this point pretty lean budget after having gone through. I think the highlights, I think for us, basically at this point, we're not proposing to raise rates on water or sewer, at least in the first portion of this year. We'll have to take a hard look at sewer in the fall and see where we are. If we're still on target with revenue and expenses, they're the most, I think, fiscally challenged of our funds. But this budget does get us close to where we had talked about a break-even point. As we've had a couple years that 22 and where some of our larger capital costs sort of put us in the red in terms of our actual year-to-year operation. So this will bring us back towards a break-even budget, and then as we go forward, we'll start to see that fund start to replenish. It's pretty much programmatically, nothing has been added in relationship to new services, but it supports all the services that the village currently has, and we're also, again, striving towards a full police roster. If we get there, you guys can read the papers and see where the struggles are statewide with recruitment and staffing. So, you know, we're hopeful that we can get to a full roster, but I think realistically it's going to be a struggle to get there. So this budget does reflect a full roster, and if we don't get there, then obviously there'll be some offsets to not having the full number of officers. So that's probably the biggest challenge that we have in relationship to what's currently proposed. The only other thing that I could think of as we go forward is looking at large capital. There are some, we've talked about a lot of these things depending upon where we come out of the ARP process. And we do have some large projects pending in front of the statewide ARPA. And so if those projects are successful, then that certainly helps us not have to go to ratepayers to help keep up our facilities. So we're cautiously optimistic that we'll be able to get some of those as well. So I think it's a fiscally responsible budget. Again, it's a slight decrease in tax rates to taxpayers, but it does provide all the services and put us in a position, I think, to hopefully get to the goal would be to get to the full roster in our public safety and be able to, I think, do some of the things that we were able to do when we had a full roster. It's been a little bit more of a challenge with some of our staffing and just trying to keep the schedule as filled as we can.
Questions on the budget as we go forward? I mean, or do we feel that do you have some? I was wondering if we feel like we're ready to adopt the budget today, or do we still want to wait till the 26th?
Stuck there,
It says adopt 2022 budget
427.
for
I mean,
26,
certainly-
which is today's the 12th, but actually that would be the 2023 budget.
Right.
Right.
It's just the calendar for 22, just for our moving dates.
Yeah.
And I did include a copy of the warning, just because, again, we're starting to get to the point where I gotta start working with the printer to meet schedules for proofs and printing and getting things in time so that they can be distributed prior to the proposed promotional meeting. So I just wanted to see where we stood, if there were any significant changes or questions or concerns.
I want to keep that, the last one, the warning separate, just
Okay.
because I want to make sure that everybody's okay with the numbers
Yep.
as they are right now.
Yeah, the warning reflects what we currently have proposed to you this evening. That's why I include those numbers from.
So,
My only, Scott might have mentioned it, because I was reading, I might have missed it, but, so what's our fund balance now?
In the village general fund,
Yeah, I'm just curious.
I think it was somewhere around, probably around a million. When I looked at it, but that was a long months ago.
actually, I've got, Melissa's sitting in the office. She might have a budget report. She could
There
probably
she
look
is.
it up real quick.
Pulling it up.
Okay, thank you.
I was thinking it was 8 something, but I could be wrong.
So it is 643,821.
Okay.
It's a lot lower than that was just,
Is that, so does, I can never remember there's a certain percentage you're supposed to, they recommend to be at, right? Like 15% or something?
and I believe we're above, I think we're above that.
Correct.
What percentage are we at?
When you
Unless
look at
you-
just general fund, we're above.
Yeah,
And obviously, they don't look
They
at
recommend
total
that,
budget
right.
because water and sewer are right there supported, so they don't add that in.
We have quite a bit. It's like, hold on.
Almost 30 some odd %, right?
Times,
so we're above the.
We're comfortably above.
Yeah.
Good, I was just curious. Weren't that many years ago, you could buy a gallon of paint.
30%.
Yeah, about 30% or so. Yeah.
All right, oh, it's always good to
Madam President, still going on to see that like packet.
This one?
Yeah.
It would have been the last page, right? It wasn't in yours.
Yeah, it was the
I
very
didn't-
last page.
last page.
Last page of
Yeah.
the, attached to the budget sheets.
Okay,
Yeah, the tail end.
well, that's where I didn't.
There it
get
is.
to
I see it.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No
They
problem.
just stuck to it.
Sometimes they do, they get that.
Yes, the nap on the paper.
So we're not adopting this tonight, are we?
We can.
We certainly can, unless you have any changes or modifications, and it just helps me get the rest of the paperwork together as we go
Sooner,
forward.
that's all.
Right.
So if we're comfortable, someone might make a motion.
Jiggs had come in last week just to
Yeah.
go through the budget because he knew he was gonna be going out of town and he was gonna have a surgery, and so
Yeah,
we went through. And
yeah, he
didn't have
told me
any-
he was comfortable with it today.
Yeah, he didn't have any modifications after that.
Jiggs.
Scott?
Melissa has a
Yes,
We-
Alyssa?
We'll have to send this to the printer at the end of the week.
To get the proofs out, we have to get, yeah, it's like the 20th, I think.
Yeah.
So it would be helpful to have it adopted.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll make the motion that we set the Bellows Falls Village Corporation municipal tax rate as 0.6149 for the fiscal year 2023.
Need a second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion on the budget? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And we have set the budget. That's important. All right. And the last night, oh, yes. go
Let me
ahead.
ask if I may.
Yeah.
Setting the tax rate and approving the warning are two separate items.
Yes,
I believe we need two motions.
yes, we will.
We will.
Number 9 is
Right.
the draft warning.
Okay,
So, yes,
Right.
no.
sorry.
Just set the temp.
I don't want to be asleep at the wheel.
Just set the
No,
temp.
no, no, I
That's all.
just, yeah.
We adopted a tax. Okay, the warning is draft warning for the 2023 annual village meeting, which you now have. And that, and I don't have any issues with here, I'll have to, let's see if there's any typos, but,
Well, I have one.
well, I have the one about the Australian ballot issue, that's one.
Right.
Go ahead, Wade, what do you got?
What's it, why does it say May 10th and May 17th?
What, informational on the first one
Correct.
Oh, okay.
And then May 17th is
is the
opposite
Australian
election.
ballot.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the election, yeah. The Australian ballot issue, which has been clear, that you sent me, Scott, that
Yes.
they want us to have the vote from the floor. We did not do that. We did the vote by Australian ballot on the Australian ballot. And in order to change from our previous method, the technicality is that we have to do it from the floor. Scott has suggested that we do it when the select is right, say around the same time the select board has a special meeting, but I don't see any, my thinking is, I don't see any point in having a special meeting and spending more money on another election, when we can simply add it to this warning and do it on the floor on May 10th.
If you wanted to, you could, right? In order,
I mean-
the current legislation only allows us to do Australian ballot through this year.
Right, allows us to, but we can do both.
And if you want to extend it forward, you have to have a floor vote and then it would go.
Right,
on
but
floor.
this year, however, because it's still another COVID year,
Right,
we can leave the budget on the ballot as it is here, because we're allowed to do that. But in order to go forward into 2023 and beyond, we need to have it on the floor.
correct.
So I'm suggesting that we put on this warning that motion, which will have to happen on May 10th. That voters will have to, from the floor, adopt it. If they say no, then it fails, and we have to go back to sticking to the floor votes for our budget. But for this year, we can keep it on this warning. So that's my suggestion. I don't know what you guys think. I just don't see the point in having another meeting,
Yeah,
I think that's reasonable.
I think it sounds like a,
like a go.
So you want to add it as an article?
Add as an article for
But it
May
has to
10th.
come from the floor. in order
Right, and then
for-
we'll get the floor, so we're gonna have motions on the floor and, actions taken on the floor and actions taken in our straight ballot.
Okay,
so from a time standpoint, we still have time to do that.
Yes, we have time to add, because it doesn't have to go to the printer until the 20th.
right.
So we have the language, from the previous meeting of 2 years ago, when we had it done by Australian ballot, but to ask on Australian ballot about changing it, sticking to the Australian ballot. This one will actually be from the floor, so if we add that, then we can get that done on May 10th. And then we use the rest of the warning for May 17th.
Okay,
Yeah, but if it fails, then we go back to the older method. My
Doesn't it
thinking
make
is,
sense to try to clean it up at one meeting?
yeah, it does. But it has to be a floor vote, so let's do it, since we have the opportunity, the
Right.
select board didn't, so they were stuck, so they have to have a special meeting later this year if they want to do that, if they want to clear that up. If they don't, it has to be back on the floor, but we have the advantage of waiting till May, so.
Right.
Clear that issue up, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, then we stick to what we had before.
I'll just add a 6th article with that language.
So
But
with,
that'll have to be proposed, you'll have to have 2 things in the warning.
right, yeah,
It'll be-
exactly,
It'll be the floor, right,
and that's fine.
right.
I mean, there are actions we'll be taking on the floor anyway. To receive and act upon the reports of the village officers, Article 2, Article 3, and I think, and Article 6. So now there'll be one more article, which you'll stick somewhere in there, rearrange the numbers or whatever.
Yep.
So with that said, any other questions, gentlemen, on the warning? May 10. And again, even if we offer the Zoom option on May 10, they, according to
You have to be
the
present.
Secretary of State, you have to be present to actually vote. So although they can speak on matters, they can't vote on the matters. I find that kind of
Odd.
offensive, but,
Yes, I guess it's the real stickler to.
gotta get down here if you
Present.
want. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm saying that now to, the recording for facts, so when people are watching now or watching later, they understand, if you don't get down here on May 10th to sit in the audience, you will not be able to vote on the matters that'll be on the floor. So hearing nothing else, we need a motion to pass this, I believe.
Hi, sorry.
It's okay, no problem.
Well, I thought tonight, are you not talking about the Hetty Green?
We already did it.
Oh,
We already said yes.
I was here to support.
Okay.
Oh,
No, you're not the
I'm
manager.
not
or whatever.
going on the plane. Now you're making me feel like my life is meaningless.
Oh,
No.
Anyway,
You
yeah,
got
it's
supported.
hard to figure out. She said the meeting started at 6, but the website says 6:30, but maybe that's a different, is there another meeting happening? on
There
the
might be.
floor?
There's a DRB meeting upstairs.
oh, yeah.
Right,
It's-
right,
Yes,
right.
that's right.
Are these, I'm sorry to interrupt with all this
Okay.
question. These meetings that happen every other
We,
week,
yes.
is it just like a known thing? Is it ever on the calendar?
Yeah, they're posted on the website,
The what, yeah,
on the town website. They're posted
agendas are
in the,
posted.
inside the hall.
well, the agenda, right, but today, the only thing for the calendar entry for today is the 3rd floor
Oh, that's
On the
interesting.
calendar itself, yeah.
The online calendar?
on the website. It's the
Oh.
only way that I can access any information.
Calendar
is my
events or
calendar.
whatever they call
Although, maybe I should look somewhere else.
I don't know. I mean, we posted in
I'm
3
not
principal places.
unsavvy.
The library, police station, and the clerk's office
Okay,
also have the notice as well.
all right.
Well, the agendas are online. If you go to the website
right.
and pull it up,
Yeah,
it'll
but
be there.
again,
Usually the Fridays.
We
before.
have that calendar, but they're
It's
having
not
some
always
glitches of it
loaded.
not linking directly to the
Right.
calendar. I apologize for that.
And it says on the agenda the date, right on top.
Right. Yeah, no, I want to be better at finding this stuff.
Okay,
The
You
good
could
news
add
is
or,
it passed.
it's too late, close.
She can still
Next
run
year.
it.
I could, couldn't I? I don't,
Write it.
Right, yeah.
but, why, is that happening tonight too?
No.
No.
Oh, I see. That way
Every year.
I'll know. Is that what you're
Future
saying?
involvement.
I'll,
They were number 7 on the agenda.
oh, wow, you've gotten through all of that.
Yes.
Yep.
It wasn't as lengthy a process as sometimes
I know,
happens.
well, I was here to support and, you know. 'cause I was-
I'm
I
sure they
was
appreciate it,
working
we do too.
Anyway, but, so I'll give another for that. I'm on Birch Street and there is potentially, like a drainage project that's gonna happen up on Williams Terrace this summer.
Mhm.
You
I
know,
think so. He would know.
Potentially,
potentially, so it's not assured, you haven't gotten any, no, okay.
right.
All right, well, maybe I'll come and talk to you about that, because
Please.
I'm below, and I wanted to talk about the scope of that, like, if that was gonna be something that was just gonna happen up there, or they're gonna dig something down the hill and have it drain down the hill.
Is that gonna be town?
It probably would be a town project.
Town. So their next meeting is next Tuesday
Right.
Okay,
at 6 o'clock.
We're
Oh, okay.
we're village trustees.
okay,
Right, so they're actually
This is
meetings
Rockingham.
pretty much almost
No, that's
every
Rockingham.
Tuesday.
You show up
Just
here, we're BF.
Same
Right.
station.
But if you come
Yeah,
here
same
next
location
Tuesday,
too.
different people, but still.
I
Same
know,
community.
I can't, this is the board, this is, what do you
This
say?
is with the village trustees,
Village
village hall
trustees.
trustees. The select board meets down here, the
Right.
alternate Tuesdays.
Right, okay, and
For the
that's,
town.
and that's, but you're
I'm here all
He
the
does
time. I'm
both.
the manager. I'm
Oh,
Scott.
what's your name?
Scott.
Scott, okay.
So you
Okay,
can come see
great.
me. I'm upstairs.
I'll come and see
Please
you and
do.
talk to you, because I mean, I've talked to Andy last year, but probably things have shifted and
Yeah,
what he described to me, I don't want to
yeah, right now.
have. It would
it's-
make a washout.
Yeah, we're not trying to make anybody's property.
Just
wash
like
out.
the guy, just like what happened, from,
High Hill.
in that July 29th.
Oh, yes.
I
Oh,
was
yeah.
there. Just like that washout happened.
A
It
little
was
bit.
like a foot away from my property.
Yeah.
And so I don't want another like
Yeah.
kind of drain like that. That's not the way to do it. Plus, there's all kinds of issues there, like invasive worms, soil. and stuff, all that.
Okay, so come next week.
Lots of fun. Okay.
Good.
And your name is for the
Hold on.
record?
All
Okay.
done.
Okay, well, thanks for coming in today. We couldn't have done it without you.
Glad to help.
Take care.
Have a good meeting.
Okay, all right, so we're back to the last item on the agenda. Takes a village.
Can I make a motion?
Yeah,
I'll
please.
make a motion that we adopt the draft warning for the 2023 annual village meeting
As amended
as amended. Oh,
Second.
yes, as amended.
Second.
and seconded. Okay, so
And I'll
any
work
further,
with Deb on the language, and I'll circulate it to everyone to make sure we're all on the same page.
and so is there any further discussion on the warning? Okay, great. If that did too, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, so that is done. Okay, that brings us down to reviewing agenda items for the next meeting, 2026, and clearly the budget and the warning aren't on them. So, since we've done that. Jenny, can you think of anything right now that needs to go on that
Top of
meeting?
my head.
As stuff comes back, and you can, if you guys got some ideas about things that should be in the agenda. What's not?
I have one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know, just because we were talking about it. The memorandum of understanding about the school made me think of the whatever we have with going up to Harris Cove, that, I don't know if that.
Oh,
ever got-
yeah, that starts sometime soon when opening the gate, closing the gate.
Right, we
Did we ever
really,
get a understanding on that,
No, I don't think
no,
we
we
did.
didn't, we
or did we
didn't
leave it?
support him last year, did we?
Oh, we did.
No.
They went up there, right?
They would go patrol, but they were not doing the gate opening and closing.
Okay.
So I think they just left it. But I'll double check to see if there's any changes. They have not contacted me.
Right.
So,
We're not looking to invite that relationship, are we?
no. not
They used to
particularly.
pay for the sheriffs, right? Was that it?
At one point they had.
Yeah,
Right.
and then they wanted to stop doing that and didn't want to pay for the contribution,
Right.
so they in a previous existence of a manager, that was given without any conversation
With the
from us.
board, right, yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking with our staffing, it seems that if they haven't.
Be a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay, so if you, again, if you think of anything else, let us know. Agenda items for the joint board meeting, I'm sure there'll be plenty, including like tax sale and stuff like that.
And we'll definitely have the follow-up report on ARPA, and that's probably a good opportunity to talk about the ARPA meeting for tomorrow night.
Yep.
that, tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow night, the 13th at 5:30. We'll be down here and,
Should have
everyone.
invited Olga.
Oh, shoot, yeah.
Slipped my mind.
Oh, God. Yeah, the guy, I don't know if she watches back TV.
Yeah. We'll try to catch up to her and make sure
Yeah.
she's aware. Absolutely.
We'll be broken up into groups based upon our municipality, Saxon River people, Bellows Falls people, and Rockingham. And they'll be voting on, basically with stickers, voting on what they consider to be high priorities of the items. Of the 55 agenda items. We are regrouping, the groups will be less than that because we're going to regroup the same types of things together, like the solar and other kinds of housing projects and stuff that will wind up, that are very, very similar, will wind up being part of a bracketed section. So you vote on the whole section. And that's the next thing we'll be doing in order for it to come back in May to the joint board meeting to see what the results have been. The planning commission will also be looking at these to see about strengthening language within the town plan that's being worked on, which affects us. And we'll be seeing what language would help for not just the ARPA funds available, but also for continued grant funding and so on and so forth. There are a lot of projects. Majority of them will not get done initially with ARPA funds. And some of them have a string of maybe several years before completion of the project, no matter how it's funded. And so we'll be not throwing any of the babies, not going out with bathwater. All of the projects will be staying, and we will be just looking at them as the term, as they go along through the years and try to find funding for them, different sources. So that's basically it. If you want to have a couple hours of fun, come on down and join us tomorrow night. And you'll have some input, everybody, picking what we consider priorities. And then I suppose after the joint board meeting, we still have like a year and a half of time to assign the monies to any particular projects. So that way we have some time to wait and see what comes in for state ARPA funding or other grants come in to take care of some of the projects that may be on those lists. So I think it's moving along, and this will be sort of taking the community temperature, see what they really think is the highest priority. Not sort of a source, sifting through it. And that plus like I said, tax sale. I was at a VLCT meeting online today. There was about 149 people who wanted to hear how the process is working with the homeowners funding that's available to take care of back taxes, as well as I think it's BFHI. I think that's what's handling it. And also a sewer and water payments too. Can also be can be paid as well. So that process is still ongoing. And they're
We've been
being
in
pretty
touch with them,
responsive.
and they are working on, I think, 3 or 4 places currently.
Okay.
And, a lot of credit, Pam in our finance office has been very proactive in making sure people are aware, people that are past due. She's been trying to get people to get on that website and register. Really, it's a homeowner, they have to take the initiative in order to be, we can't do it for them. The other program during COVID, we could actually do it, and we did.
Yeah.
Apply.
There was some conversation about that, about municipalities actually helping people apply. It is possible, just saying. If a homeowner is getting close to the end date for a tax sale, whatever, they can contact them and say, I know I just turned this stuff in, and they'll help them expedite it. Whatever they can do. One of the callers online got paid, that money came into the municipality within 2 weeks, which is really fast.
Yes.
So that is working on its way, and we'll probably have a few less items on the tax sale when we get there.
I think it'll take a few off. Yes.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Anything further? I guess, again, let us know if there's anything you want to see on the joint. Which is that going to also be a tri-board meeting? I'm just asking. Since it's ARPA related.
I think since it's ARPA related and the report's coming out, I'm assuming at this point that one will be.
All right, review and approve orders, bills, and warrants.
Motion for same.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, other business. Scott,
Nope, all set.
wait,
Yeah, is this just here, or was this?
no,
One.
second
I
brother.
can't do second.
Okay. This is current now.
Yeah, this current, I think they're having a meeting in Charlestown tomorrow night.
Tomorrow, no time on it though.
Yeah, you'll probably have to go to the
Charlestown.
website or something, or
Site.
Claremont's website,
No, I was just curious.
or
Okay.
call the clerk up there.
I anticipate this will be a long-term problem.
Yeah,
So for the audience, this is about the repair of Route 12 and an update, and they're having a meeting at the Charlestown Select Board tomorrow evening, but I don't have time yet, so you'd have to go to their site or Claremont and suggesting to get, if you're interested in finding out more about that. If you're not, the exciting ARPA meeting tomorrow night, that's right. Okay, I would just like to say, I heard today that both Bennington and Wyndham County have been heavily hit by overdose deaths from opioids, and I wish we could find an instant solution, but we can't. And so I'm greatly concerned about it because COVID has actually made it seem to have increased it. I don't know if it's the slack time and not working, or whatever it was, or the extra funds from the feds. But I'm really concerned about our community and everyone's, you know, that.
Statewide.
Yeah, statewide, it's definitely a problem. Stefan
No, we're good.
and Jeff. Okay, it looks like we have no need for executive session, so I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second,
I'll second.
all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you for a speedy meeting. It is 7:05. Thank you out there for tuning in.